Hi there, welcome to Burning Spears. I'm Richard Spears. Today I'm going to do a video on the unpleasant and dirty side of barbecue. And it's going to involve some tips and tricks on maintenance, seasonal maintenance or regular maintenance of a Kamado Joe or ceramic or Kamado style grill. So the main thing is you want to have your unit looking good, you want to have it working good, and there is unfortunately a bit of hard work involved in that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto all of the kit that I've got to hopefully complete the task today. Then I'm going to go through, you'll see me undertake some of the tasks and provide you with some information that I think is really good and needed in case you don't know it. So stick around if you are a Kamado owner, and I think you will learn something, hopefully learn something, and any tips that you have as well, I'd always be happy to receive, because these are, of course, these are what I've learned over time. So you might have learned something better over time. So please send those tips in, comment on the video, and let's get down to the materials and tools needed. Okay, so I've got some gloves, not the normal barbecue gloves, the latex gloves that I normally use. I've got something a bit more durable, because of course I'm going to be dealing with a lot of dirt, some sharp edges, all of that. I've got some dark clothing on so that I don't look like a chimney sweep, and it's cold. It's a freezing winter's day, so I'm going to put my gas heater on shortly. But okay, so I've got cordless driver and a cordless drill that I will use with various brushes and attachments to make life easier instead of pure elbow grease of using a plain scourer pad. These are really good. The color denotes their hardness, their flexibility of bristles. So this is a pretty stiff one, the red. This thing that looks like a toilet cleaner head, a toilet cleaner brush head, will come invaluable just because it will clean the bowls, like the round surfaces inside. So I'm going to use that. Then of course I've got like a scourer pad as well, which will go onto the drill. That makes life a lot easier as well, as opposed to having to do that. This you need to get to those places that this can't get to. Of course, with it rotating, it moves and bumps around and stuff like that. So you will need to put in some manual hard work as well. But there we go. I have a socket set and Allen key bits or hex head bits to do the adjustment and tighten up all of the nuts and bolts on the Kamado Joe. I have an old t-shirt as rags, and then I've got various stages of cleaner. Now you don't really want to use a harsh abrasive cleaner on your Kamado Joe, so I've got a light clean. Then only in areas that persist I will use a medium sort of cleaner. This isn't really heavy duty. And then my last result for the die hard grit in certain areas is like it's an abrasive cream. I do not want to be using that on the ceramics because that's just going to dull the surface. So that'll be used as sparingly as possible. You can have industrial strength grease removers. You can use those. You just got to be careful again because of the harshness of them. And you can also use, in some instances, you can use the oven cleaners. But again, the strength of those chemicals is really strong. You don't want to damage it. I've got a real strong wire brush just to get into the hard stuff. WD-40 or any sort of anti-corrosion stuff for my wheels. They're not looking in great shape. And then I noticed that my gasket was loose, so I have a high heat silicon. This is a 300 degrees Celsius rated silicon. It's one of the highest ones I could find. Luckily it's not too far gone, so it's just a case of taking it down. So I've got a small tube here, but more about that on the Kamado Joe itself. Okay, so I've got my gas heater on, and then I'm just going to walk you around the Kamado Joe a little bit. Take off the shelves. So there's a number of important things to look at, right? This control tower or top vent is a subject on its own. So I'm going to take that off, discuss that in way more detail in a little bit. Then the thermometer. I'll talk about this in a bit. I have covered this in another video, but always needs to be mentioned. Okay, so now we're left with the main unit that you're not going to take apart too much. I will be taking out the firebox inside for the reasons that I'm going to talk about. So when I used Kamado Joes in the barbecue school, it was my first time really using Classic 2s. I'd been lent a KJ Junior for a little while, and I used them 3 times a week over the course of about 6 months, 8 months, teaching on them, using them intensely for classes. That's 8 hours these things are rolling and cooking. So I learned quite a lot about them. I noticed a few things as to when the temperature wasn't as stable as I was completely used to. These are remarkable pieces of kit, and I was used to setting and forgetting, with very seldom minor adjustments being needed, and being able to rely on that. Then I noticed that they would start dying and dipping in temp and being a little bit more riding up and down a little bit, not being as uniform and linear as you want them to be, and as I was used to having them, which, as you will probably know, is that straight and steady cook is a prerequisite for a great cook, a great low and slow, a long cook. You need that stable temperature at the correct temperature. So it posed a couple of these. They started posing a couple of issues like that. And I'll get on to what I found to be the issue. Surprisingly, a lot of it was in the control tower, the top vent, which I'll cover shortly. But let's get into the guts of this and have a look and a chat about that. So as you can see, there's dirt on here. Unfortunately it's a natural process. You can see where the thermometer's been nice and beautiful and red, like it was shiny when it was new. If I cleaned this as regularly as I should, it wouldn't have been such a problem, but it builds up very quick and it bakes on. So it's not easy to always remove. I'm going to cover that in a bit. Then, like anything, you have instances where stuff gets loose. These things are expanding and contracting so much all the time that all the nuts and stuff get loose. That's loose, these are loose. There's probably 1 or 2 loose ones on here. And the straps around. You would want to check and adjust your hinge to be good working. Mine is still working good, but there's a little Allen key on top which lifts or lowers the little locking wedge. So you can make it close harder or softer. So for me, it's not engaging there. I push it down and it engages. So that's still working perfectly for me. So I won't be doing any adjusting on there. But like I say, I'll run around and do that. The air hinge, KJ's, one of KJ's patented items, so that you have a hinge that doesn't drop down with a full weight, it lifts. Simple adjustment at the back. You just tighten or loosen that nut depending on what result you want. You can make it like really stiff and stay where you want it. I like a little bit of a rise, typically with other things in life, that's perfect for me. So the inside ceramics is a lot of dirt here. Now, Smoking Dad Barbecue do real good videos on maintenance of this, and he talks about burning it clean, etc, etc. I have burnt it clean to a certain extent. That's why all of this is so loose. I haven't got that clear white, that nice sort of pinky white effect that you can get sometimes. There's the loose gasket. I don't want to pull it up too much. That's the issue. This gasket is full of dirt from all of the use and all of the high heat cooks that I do when I reverse sear steaks. But that's just natural wear and tear. I just pray it lasts longer, and I pray I don't have any loose bits on this top one, which it looks like I don't. Okay, so I will go on to how we're going to proceed with this. First things first, I'm going to remove the firebox on this, because when I talk about airflow in a bit with the control tower, I'm going to talk about how dirt builds up behind these and slows your airflow down. Airflow is king for your stability, for your cooks. You need to make sure that the airflow is always the best airflow possible. Now you can see this is well used. It's got a lot of dirt on. I'm going to be getting that dirt off there separately. Okay, so I'm going to take these segments out. Right, what's really interesting here is I use this a lot, and the ash tray system really works well in these. So this is the tray that goes in the bottom, and all the ash hits here, falls down and goes into the tray, having easy, that makes you, or allows you to remove it easy. So it's amazing at how well it works, how little ash there is inside there. This is where one of the main problems happen. There's a build-up of ash and stuff, and a lot of carbon from the cook, burnt food and stuff that falls down the sides and builds up and slows down some of the airflow. So you can probably see this, but there's a high level of ash here. There's a high level of ash all around here. So all of that was sitting around where you want your airflow to be coming through, going through all holes to improve your cook. That's a lot of stuff in there. Okay, so I'm going to give this all a good clean out. Use a vacuum, or you could wheel it off somewhere and use a blower. Your choice. I've got an old vacuum that I used, but there's a bunch of dirt to get out here. So we'll just do a little time lapse on me getting rid of as much dirt as I can. So one thing I noticed in the clean, which I wouldn't normally notice, is the crack in the grid plate. This is of course where the ash goes through to the bottom catchment tray, and I wonder what that does, A, being wider than it should be, and B, expanding in the firebox. So it can't really be good. You can see it's on its way out, it's on its way right across. So I'll be finding out about how the guarantee for this works with Kamado Joe. And the upside is I've been wanting to justify the cost at getting a basket, a stainless steel ember basket. And I think now it's justified that I've got to give that a try, because that gives superior airflow, as opposed to this being your main air source for your embers with the holes on the firebox on the side. That grill basket keeps all of the charcoal completely off all of those surfaces, so you get a lot more airflow. So now I'm going to buy one and I'll find out about the guarantee on this. Right, so the worst part about doing this to a Kamado Joe, and the one that puts everyone off maintenance probably, is the reassembly of the firebox. It is not the most pleasant task, but I've done it. It's in, but with all of this moving around, I've now loosened my gasket to a stage where it's basically all come off. But it is holding on one place, and I'm going to leave that place on for a number of reasons. I'm going to leave that on for to help me keep the gasket aligned. There's nothing worse than the whole thing floating around and everything like that. That's why some people use big clips like this when they put it on. So this I was hoping to do just a little patch today, but you know how these things go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish assembling this, and then I can close it, do the gasket, close it down, and then carry on with the cleaning so it doesn't get in my way. Okay, as you will have no doubt seen, it is a little bit of a rigmarole. I should have put the ashtray slider or capsule in first. You want to make sure that you can move that in and out, that you're aligned, and then you just have to do some fine adjustments on your box to make sure your gap around is equal and that the segments are equally spaced. Like here I've got some open gaps that I need to work on. Right, there we go, done. Now this is totally loose. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the surface gently and clean the surface up as well so that the silicone works. Right, so gasket sealer on. I'm not going to open that for at least 24 hours. Okay, now I'm going to focus on all of the bolts around the place. You can see the bands, the main fastening bands that hold the lid on and the hinge on. There's a couple of pointers to note on here, and I would have shown you if I hadn't had to do the gasket, but this was a bit loose. You can see it shift when you open and close. The whole thing moves a little bit, so you just tighten these up, not very tight. You do not want to be putting too much pressure on there, so almost just a little bit past hand tight. Check it. If it's still a bit loose, a little bit more, but slow increments on there, nothing too hectic. Right, my last step, I don't have much to do. There's a couple of very resistant spots. So my last step is to use the scour pad. I like to limit the use of this so that I don't damage the glazing on the ceramic glaze. Okay, so I've cleaned it as much as I want to. There's an odd place that's really resistant, but if I do more regular cleans, they'll be shorter and less tough to do. Also, I'll wait till it's nice and warm and try and get these couple of spots off. Apologies, I see a bit of gunk flew on the lens there while I was filming. You'd swear I was taking a video in another industry, but it happens in all industries, I suppose. So, onto the high tower, the control tower, sorry, the top vent of the Kamado Joe. Now, one of the things that I noticed when the temps were dying on me and I cleaned this, I noticed it improved dramatically. So I looked into it a bit more, and the next time it came around, I checked it, and the same thing was true. And the only thing that I can think of that makes sense, right? So when this unit is clean, there are other air paths around it. When you sit and you see it smoking, you'll still see trails of smoke come out, even though it's fully closed. So there is still a little bit of air movement through when this is closed. So my theory is, once all of those areas are gunked up, there's less airflow. So your readings will change. So you set more or less your same readings, and over time it'll dip a little bit because it's not working quite as well as it should. That, coupled with a build-up of dirt in all of the airways around, almost certainly makes a difference. They don't have to fill up and block the holes completely, they just have to partially block. And there's not a lot of airspace around the back, around the firebox. Likewise, the grooves in the firebox have air gaps. When those fill up, they get dusted up, there's less airflow coming through. So for me, it's when your Kamado Joe or your Kamado grill becomes a little bit unreliable, then it's all of these little things on the airflow. Unfortunately, there's no easy way of cleaning one of these. It's just elbow grease, and a lot of elbow grease. you'll notice when it starts getting dirty, that it starts getting sticky when your unit's cold and you're opening you'll feel the resistance. You know, those of you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's when you need to start making your life easier and cleaning it earlier on. So I've taken this to an extreme case to show you. I promise you I never do this normally. And my mouth's getting dry. I think I need to sort that problem out shortly. So I've taken it to an extreme case, and I'm going to show this to you now. Now the only way to clean this is really hot water, some mild detergent, and a lot of scraping and scrubbing. If you use a real strong cleaner like an oven cleaner and that, it's going to pull the paint off the aluminium. And every time that's going to happen to a slight degree anyway, because animal fats are caustic, they cause corrosion. So you leave that on, it causes corrosion, just the same as an acidic substance does as well. And so by leaving all of those fats on and they build up over time, they are eating away at the paint and then tucking into the nice soft aluminium. So keep it clean often, like most things in life, and it'll look after you. I'm probably going to try fairly shortly one of those stainless steel units like smokeware.com make. I'm going to try that because stainless is stainless, right? It's bulletproof, easy clean, etc., etc. This will deteriorate on this clean. Those of you who have cleaned these a number of times will have lost the white lines like I have on there. But let's go in close so you can see the build-up. So because it was nice and hot, I really burnt it out to a high heat before the clean a couple of days ago. A lot of that has just fallen out, so I don't have to scrub that out. You know, oil and grease, when it gets hard, thick and black, how hard it is to get rid of. So I'll have a great deal of success just with a screwdriver on this. Off camera, I'm going to submerge it and scrub it and scrub it and scrub it until it's clean. I'll put it on back and then I'll run over the thermometer with you in a bit. Okay, this has been scrubbed to death, nice and clean, loose. That wasn't even releasing before. I'd have to wait for it to heat up before I could do that. My jigsaw puzzle. Right, okay, so nice and loose, nice and clean. You can see how the paint starts coming off the aluminium with age. Push it on nice and square and level. Something that I haven't mentioned before, which is, if you can keep this in mind, if you haven't already had the misfortune of discovering it, when you're cooking really hot and you might have this happening. So you're cooking really hot, you're reverse searing, all of that sort of thing. You lift it up, this flies off because this is expanded so much that the gasket doesn't keep it tight anymore. So you always have to keep an eye out for that. I never have it open like that when I open anymore. That weight just pulls it off and there it goes. It can crack and chip and really ruin your day. And the other thing is to always make sure that the Kamado Joe is center, like the A on the Kamado Joe is center running right through. If you have it off center, you can find things like, and everything's nice and clean, you open it, that does that, and then that can open as it clangs. Then you've lost your setting. So if you have it centered, when you open, that'll be stable. That won't slide anywhere, and thus that won't slide anywhere. That's quite a good tip if you haven't discovered that already. Okay, so the thermometer is just going to get cleaned a little bit. I have calibrated this one a little while ago, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to clean it off there. The calibration screw is there, so you put it in some boiling water, 100 degrees or 212 Fahrenheit is your center. So you just use a screwdriver to get it back to there. It could be lower or higher, so you calibrate it that way. Except if you live in the Himalayas or a really high mountain range, it'll boil a lot quicker, so you just got to find out there. I mean, it can be considerably so. But generally, boiling water, 100 degrees, that's your marker. Turn slowly, micro adjustments. Turn slowly, put it back in, micro adjustments, until you get it to 100, then you know you're good to go. So right, then I would put it back and do the screw, but remember I've glued it, so I've got to leave it alone for 24 hours. And then I'll open it up and put it back on. Right, so there you have it. All clean, all beautiful, sexy, and the Kamado Joe's not looking bad either. So I hope there were some useful tips on that. And it's looking good. I can't wait. Tomorrow I've got a nice big tomahawk that I'm going to put on there. Nice, warm it up nicely, get all the what little chemical there is around burnt off before I start the cook. But you need to do this twice a year. If you use it a lot, I use it a lot, you might have noticed that. Twice a year is a minimum. Keep it clean as much as you can, unlike me I've been waiting doing it every 3 months, but starting to pick up stuff I can't get rid of. So I will clean it more often, I promise, baby. I'll look after you better. And I hope you have one of these and that you found this interesting. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. That's it.